Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're here with Pat Martelli, who is a master carpenter who grew up in the construction industry, taught high school history, and then he built Boone Creek Construction from the ground up on custom residential and commercial work with a stubborn conviction that the techniques that have stood the test of time are still the ones worth using. Pat, welcome to the studio. It is great to see you today.
Oh, fantastic. Excited to be here. My first podcast, guys.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go. I say we're going to have to start giving out like first podcast appearance awards or something. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like that we're.
And I'm like you. I listen to a podcast and or a book like every day when I'm driving from job site to job site. I listen to music in the morning when I'm working out, and that's like it these days. You know, and on the weekends, right?
I'm curious because this is totally just off topic. What's your go-to morning music? What genre are you dialing in there?
It's for workout, and it kind of depends on my mood. It's funny. I go from which I do not listen to heavy metal at all unless I'm working out, and that's it. Right? Like I can't stand it. You couldn't give me free tickets. Maybe a show if I was front row, but that'd be about it. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near the mosh pit. Huh?
Canada. But yeah, I was like front row, this straight mosh. You can't.
Yeah, I would do my best to avoid the mosh.
Yeah.
Want to watch?
Yeah. And then, like early 2000s rap, like the real rap, the good rap. And then, at this point, Spotify just does your workout mix. So it's like some random techno and stuff. And literally on the week, I'm a country guy, but that's not workout music.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That breakup country music can kind of inspire you to work out a little harder,
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
We're going to cover a few different things. Yemi's gonna head us off, but just like kind of set the tone for listeners and kind of what to expect in terms of what we're looking into at this episode. I really would like to talk about building things that outlast you, right? And specifically in the building industry, we see a lot of cases where what gets rewarded is speed and efficiency. And that's sort of at odds with quality, long-term legacy. So I really want to dive into that, kind of get your take on that. But yeah, we'll turn over to Yemi. You can get us started and jump into it.
Pat, I mean, every builder in Kentucky is talking about quality and attention to detail, and it's on the trucks and the websites and the marketing and everything. So what's something that you do that the guy down the road isn't doing? That you're like, hey, this is me. I'm Pat. I do this. Boone Creek, we're doing it this way. What sets you apart?
Yeah, that's a good point, Yemi. You'll quite literally see some vans or trailers, quality craftsmanship, blah, blah. And then they got like Home Depot house wrap, right? Which is the cheapest, quickest house wrap you can get. And that is what it is, right? But I think a few of the things that especially does set me apart, and Aram teed that up right. In our modern day world, people do want it now, right? And I do my best to speak with clients up front and let them know that no good thing can come tomorrow or the next day, and that it does require special and extra attention to detail. And through that, we do always find and source some of the best products that you can't just get off the shelf. So we have over our years in business, we have sourced some of the premier suppliers, if you will, per state, and we've literally brought them here due to some of the higher end custom builds that we do. As a matter of fact, for instance, this winery that we're working on, I just brought this really nice window brand called Western Windows. They're out of Arizona. And the building that we're building right now is the first building in Kentucky to have these Western windows. And due to Kentucky's climate, we do have kind of a lot of rules and regulations because we are somewhat of an anomaly given we get all these different weather patterns and so on. But this window brand, I'm like, I've never seen anything here like it. And I'd assume due to the heat, the extreme heat out in Arizona, that they are built. These windows are built airtight. And so I guess to just answer your initial question is we do our best to, me and my two other superintendents and foremen, we do our best to always source the highest quality product and show the client, usually via their approval, or if it's already completely built into the cost, because a lot of the times you gotta get local suppliers cost for your bid while you're bidding a project, because that can take quite a while depending on the size and scale of
Mhm.
said project. But then I always present with them, hey, this is what I bid, and I'm letting you know, for an extra $8, 10, $12,000, I can assure you of this. You'll never have to deal with this ever again in the time that you're living there. And so we always do our best to be like client focused in terms of saying, hey, look, this is really what we bid, because in our initial conversation, and also 9 out of 10 times, as the building process goes, clients just get more excited. They want to spend a little bit more here, maybe cut a little bit out there. And that's where it's
Mhm.
it's it's a constant balancing act, and you do have to just be very dynamic with saying, "Hey, we completely removed your mudroom cabinets. We just saved $14,000. I suggest we put it into this item right here, so that way you never have to
Mm,
deal with
yeah.
X problem." Right? And again, it's very dynamic. It's per job basis. Not one of our builds is the same. Just like
Uh,
with a lot of things in life, it's kind of just staring at the canvas and saying, what picture do we really want to paint here, right?
so so when you factor in, because obviously, you talk about windows that just, this is the first time they've been in the state, that kind of thing. Doing it the right way is slower, it's pricier. Does having that craftsmanship actually pay, or is it kind of a luxury that gets subsidized, by your own margin?
See, and I'm pretty simple. I'm a simple guy. And I
Mhm.
we what comes across my desk, we just add our builder's fee to it. I don't, if it's $1 million build and the build ends up coming in at 850, guess what? The client paid 850 for it. Right. I know that that may not be the best business practice, as this is a business podcast. However, I find it to be one of the best long-term business plans, due to clients referring us, right, to the next 1.5 million build that
Yeah.
may go over. And that's fun, right? After these conversations with said client and so on and so forth. I promise you this, only once can I think about when it's gone over after multiple conversations that then the client was like, wait, what's gone on here, right? We do our best to
Mm,
always present the material, the price, and what's going to be associated with it, right? So I don't let it necessarily build into my margins, Yemi, but my margins are what they are. What comes across my desk, we just throw our builder's fee on top of it and call it a day. And I think that's one of the more fair ways. And again, I mean, as my business is growing, and I've spoke with other builders, they're kind of like, you're crazy, and I get it, right? But that's why, there's yachts out there that say change order. No, like straight up
mhm,
commercial yachts that say change order on the back. And that's because let's be honest, they're totally just kind of stealing that money. And it is what it is. Certain businesses have to pay it, and
mm, yeah.
we're lucky to where we're kind of small enough to where we can work with the client, and that's what I care about. Is at the end of the day, if I run into my client after a job in the supermarket at dinner, I don't I don't want anything to be awkward, or, where, because I do hear
Yeah,
these
that's good.
stories. I do. I mean, when you're building someone's house, it's very, it's really personal. And I hear these stories about, like, never ever am I gonna hire that contractor again, or never, and that's because sometimes they're either stealing from you by marking up their materials, or they really screwed something up, and
Mhm,
and that's to where within a year they're already hiring someone else, and then it's a $40,000 issue versus paying the 15 to 20 grand up front during said build that would have mitigated that. And that's just, I do associate a lot of what I know from my dad, which that's how Aram and I got together, and he's a total building nerd, you know. So
yeah.
I got lucky there.
It's funny because my dad also built houses growing up. I don't know if I've ever told you this or not, Pat, but he was like very much a one man show. He really did not like to work with it. He build a lot of A-frames, and he could do pretty much everything except a little bit of plumbing and electrical code. And he just hated working with other people because nobody would hold the standard where he had it. And he would always like I went on a couple of sites when I was a kid and I hated construction. So I did not stick around in it. I didn't like take away any of those skills at all. He tried me, he tried to get my older brother to do it. And like both in our terms, it's like, nope, like we're definitely not gonna be out doing this when we grow up. But there is one lesson that I will take with me till I die. And I'm now telling my kids that. And he just say this like all the time, either whether it's in construction or else, is like you can do it right the first time or you can do it right the sixth time. But at some point, you're gonna have to do it right. And it's like, so if
Right.
you just do it right on the first go, you save everybody a lot of trouble and heartache. And he would
Wow.
he like remodels were he would almost never do a remodel because he hated renovating anything. Because he go in there, start tearing stuff out, and he's like, oh yeah, there's way more we have to do now because of how much they skipped out on the front end. So it's kind of funny. Like I did not become a master carpenter. I didn't I did not take it to any level, but I remember the principle was like, man, just do it right out of the gate and everybody's going to be happier. So it's sounds like you had that same viewpoint there.
Yeah, no doubt.
I was gonna ask how old were you when you went to your first job site,
Oh yeah, no, I
like
grew up
build
as a
site
kid
with your
going to yeah, I grew up as a kid going to job sites for sure. And I'm one of three, and I was the one that really enjoyed it the most. We did, yeah. I mean, heck, again, that's going to my dad's job sites. I can always remember that. I especially like during foundation work, climbing up all the topsoil that they pile. When I was a kid, and I just go, and I'd go fuck around on on the topsoil for an hour. While my dad, yeah, yeah, bye. And and then yeah, no, since what when I was in eighth grade, I for my summer job, I was started off as a laborer, digging ditches, moving stuff around job site, and then eventually worked my way up to with the framing crews, and then eventually to a trim carpenter, and then eventually managing.
It's awesome. Is
Nice.
there anything like again, having grown up from early days all the way to what you're doing now with your own company, is there a piece of like just old school, this is job site wisdom that got tossed around that you now think was probably incorrect or maybe has changed over the decades? Like, and maybe there's not, but I'm just curious. Like, anytime somebody's had this much experience and has kind of gone through like a generational experience there in their field. I'm always curious. Like, did you grow up hearing something that you're now like, no, I wouldn't do it that way, or maybe I look at it with a different lens?
I would say I'm not. That's an interesting question. The biggest thing with construction is getting information out and in the right hands. And so these days, of course, with various construction management apps and so on and so forth, that's a good way to get your subs the information without you being there. So I would, I guess in terms of today's world, you don't always have to be directly on site handing the subs like a spec sheet or, a certain takeoff, where absolutely back in the day, you had to have that's what your foreman was there for, right? Is it as the boss, you would hand your foreman as much information up front that he had the book, and could divvy it out to each sub. It's kind of funny, Aram. You know what? We've recently adopted my between myself and my three other foremen. I got a one superintendent, two foremen, and a truck driver. We've actually taken a step back in time, and we have 4G walkie talkies now, and I'm telling you, that's one of the best things ever.
Snap. That's
I
cool.
no, it's because I can literally hear their chatter right throughout the day, so I kind of just get tabs on what they're doing, where they're at, what they're asking each other to. That's why I still wish we had the Nextel beeper. I mean, that thing, those were clutch.
Mm,
So we've even stepped back. Yes, we have
yes.
construction management software as well to like download all of the specs and then it's in one area for my foreman to have and whip it out right there for the HVAC sub or whatever sub. But in terms of like quick communication, because I and then my super are like we're on the phone all the time. And it's just real nice. We can hardly get it. Boom, if I hear him call me over the radio, I just, it's like a quick hold on real quick. It's usually quick questions between us and shouldn't necessarily require a phone call. So that's been, I'll tell you what, we've even taken a step back in time, and I love
That's
it.
cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Miss those Nextels, man.
Dude, right?
Well,
No, I'm serious. My understanding is that they didn't use it, or they put them out of service because, like, I guess it didn't require like the actual, like, there was no way of telling how much usage they had, right? I think that was it. Like, because it was, especially in the
Interesting.
days where like not everything was unlimited and so on. That's my understanding. I
Yeah.
could be totally wrong, but I think that they like couldn't, like, at least pay or take the money for how much usage you were using, I think.
That sounds about that tracks.
That tracks.
Yeah, because it's sweet. My foreman went to a job in Indiana, and he was like, "We're good," like, because it's on a 4G network. I was like, "Nice." He could be out in California and beeping me, so that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
It's slick.
yeah, I was like, that doesn't sound like history or an ancient relic. That's pretty
Right?
cool. But talking about history, what made you decide to go into the classroom from
To
construction?
be honest, again, this was in my teenage years, of course, through college. Always, I had a passion for coaching, and I did like summer camps and stuff. That was a passion job, Gabby. And so I got into it. That's what when I was in college, I was like, I'll just declare. And I always loved history. So I just declared a history major and was going to be a high school history teacher and coach. And I did that for 5 years in my 20s. And then just through working there for 5 years, so many teachers that have been there that were, for 20 plus years or so. And as I'm sure everyone knows, the teaching salary has not adjusted to the times whatsoever.
True.
And I was seeing what I could make in 30 years with my master's, and I was like, 30 years? I was
Oh,
like, shit, I'll be coming up on 60 making, 80K. And I just kept hearing all these teachers be like, I'm getting a second job. Like, and that was my second job. I had a trim carpentry business. So during the summers, and that's the nice part about teaching, let's say that, it's a give and a take. You work 9 months out of the year, you absolutely can get a second job. And I did. I had a trim carpentry business, and year after year of literally making almost as, because I was still only in my first few years of teaching. So my salary was below 40K. I'll just say that. Uh, and I was making over half that in 2 months. And I was finally like, I just can't raise. And I'm like, Aram, I want multiple children. And I was like, I know that this is going to be a very uncomfortable living if I continue this path. And I didn't want to remain uncomfortable,
Makes
So
sense.
that's it. I say it all the time. If I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd go back to teaching. I would, because it was a passion job. And when my kids get a little bit older, absolutely, I'm going to jump into coaching. I think especially these days, strong male role models is 100% a necessity for our society. I'm a firm believer in that.
100%.
I get to at least kind of relay that into what I do as kind of the boss, right? Where I have my daily mantra, and part of it is like, I want to make someone's day today and encourage them to be better than themselves. And so I get to talk to a lot of blue collar boys that are down and out oftentimes, that are, or whatever. So I at least get to kind of take some of the passion from teaching and bring it over into the trades as well. So yeah, but no, I love history. I did love teaching. It was a lot of fun, especially high schoolers. Cause I was kind of a crazy high schooler myself. And so I was more attracted to the troubled kids, and would take them under my wing. And as a matter of fact, I'll never forget, I had a kid, this is just a quick side. I had a kid that was on the run from the cops, and he wasn't at school that day. And quite literally, I went to swim practice, came back. I was a swim coach, came back to my classroom real quick, and he was hiding in my room. And so, like,
Yeah.
him and I talked. We called his parents, and then, like, he turned himself in. Yeah, he, like, snuck into high school and was
Wow.
hiding in my room,
Wow.
you know. So
Dang.
it's just, yeah. So that was actually kind of like, hey, you are doing something for these kids, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. That's crazy.
And so now it's like,
Wow.
all right, now
Yeah,
we got to do
that's
something for
incredible.
a lot of these blue collar boys that may not like college was an option for them. And they're in their mid 20s
Do you,
and they're like, they're seeing all these influencers or whatever. And I'm like, no, no, you're on the right track and I promise, you know? And so
Yeah.
yeah. Do you have any youth programs in your company or internships available for
we,
younger guys, or is the youngest the ones you mentioned?
we do, I work with the local trade school for possibly getting laborers during summer and also with hiring on carpenters. And then usually, because as a general contractor, I'm not doing framing year round, right? Because you frame a house
Uh-huh.
and then you do the siding and the roofing, and I deal with all the trades, but I'll hook them up with some of my trades as well to see if they like it while they're in trade school. And so I've done a few of those, but it's not like we have a quote unquote like portal from trade school into the trades. Unfortunately, my business isn't big enough. And I know that there's a lot of commercial general contractors that have that where they like bring them on and so forth. But we, you know, I'm still at least as involved in trying to help people out as much as I can when I can.
Do you I'm curious, does your background in teaching history, did that kinda help inform how you wanted to develop a company here that's, again, built on long-term impacts, right? Because if you're thinking of, "Hey, this is what's stood this test of time, how like, and I'm now going to go build and create these kinds of buildings." I want things that'll have that same sort of timeless appeal and just that perseverance factor. Did that have like I mean, I think that the quality component was already going to be settled for you regardless, but I'm just curious if like history played a bit in that in terms of, hey, I want to build a company that's going to be historically, long term, even without me down the road.
Absolutely. 100%. And I'm just lucky enough where we have certain clients. Let's be honest, in order to build a house these days that can stand the test of time, that requires some pretty serious money, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
You know, a lot of these 400 to $600,000 spec homes will be garbage here within 100 years. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they'll
yeah,
be covered in moss and they'll be if they, especially if they don't keep it up. I'm sure that there are some towns out there that had a boom maybe in the early 2000s. That I mean, have you guys seen Dayton, Ohio recently? Has anyone been to Dayton recently?
not recently. No.
I mean, it's never impressed me.
It's a
Sorry,
ghost
my
town.
husband. Yeah, my
Yeah,
yeah. It's pretty. There's not a real reason to live there.
yeah,
Right. And I believe at one point it was like a decent manufacturing town, I believe. But we went up there. I
yeah,
also play rugby and we play because we're in Lexington, we play like Cincinnati, Louisville, Dayton, and then this Indiana team and then Knoxville. So we go up to Dayton and I drove through and I'm like, it's a ghost town in certain neighborhoods. And
yeah.
those are the middle to lower income neighborhoods. Those houses won't, I guarantee they, if they're never touched, they will just crumble on themselves before,
Crazy,
2060. And that's crazy.
crazy. Yeah,
You could
yeah,
probably still see, Roman slave quarters to this day. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
that's like just to show the scale and difference in building material and stuff.
Jeez.
So back to the question, no doubt. I think with the right clientele and a lot of there's the beauty too is there are still good architects all over the place that have that. A lot of architects are kind of history driven type folk and they have an appreciation for that. And so if you get the right architect and the right client, you can absolutely build a serious house. For instance, a house that Aram and I both know, it's a Greek revival. And I used to tell my dad, I'd say, this is one of those houses that you'll see in it'll be ruins in 1,000 years, but you'll literally still have the shell because it's all true. It is all real limestone. The
Yep.
entire house is real limestone, slate shingles. I mean, so it's the whole house is stone. You know, and that puppy's not going anywhere anytime soon.
So I was going to say, you started Boone Creek from nothing. Like, when you sat down to build the company, like, what did you decide to do differently from the way that this business is usually run? And it might be different, like you said, different building the custom builds versus the kind of spec builds.
Yeah, and I'm not, again, I learned at least the building side from my father. And then I am very much like a business minded guy too. And so I wanted to implement the right structures. And by the way, we're still growing, Yemi. We're by no means at our peak. And so I've been gathering from a lot of other custom builders out there that where because iron sharpens iron, right? You gotta speak with those that have been around the block a few times and at least have their systems and just kind of take pieces of everyone that you like and mold your own. And so my main thing is I wanted to surround myself with extremely sharp and motivated individuals. And that does take time in the construction industry, given that you can't truly see at how good someone knows ground up construction until they finish a job as one of your foremen. So it does take a little bit of time and it does take a little bit of training and coaching from my side as well, right? So I have to take responsibility as the business owner. But no, I really wanted to build good systems and good processes for everyone that wears a Boone Creek hat or shirt or works for us is well spoken. Like I say it all the time. If I'm not there and the client talks to you, I don't want anybody, I don't want just some Joe Schmo. And we live in Kentucky. It's like you could have some good old boy just, I don't know, may not ask Pat. No. Like I've gone around and done my best to find some good guys. And that's what I say. Hey, you're the face when I'm not there. Right. And so I mean, that's literally something I tell my guys all the time. And that's something that, they bring up a lot of times too. It gives them a sense of pride when a client or a sub talks to them and obviously, if it's like a question or comment that's out of their immediate realm or answering ability, hey, you should call Pat on that. But I've really wanted and I've really driven the molding and creating of good individuals in the company and not just all on my shoulders, right?
Yeah.
Because that is what separates a lot of custom builders. Some only take on 2 jobs a year and but they got all the responsibility. And it's a heavy burden. And I wanted to be a present father and wanted to be, I didn't just want to strictly and wholly consume my life with building, right? And so that does require treating it like an actual business versus just a building company, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Circling to some crazy client questions, how do you, I mean, it's a niche market, I'm sure, but how do you sell timeless to a client holding a Pinterest board of whatever's on trend now? And do you ever have to talk someone out of like a weird ask? And can you give us some examples of what that looked like? And
Without violating any,
Yeah,
any
for
NDAs, of
I
course.
mean, any construction HIPAA laws?
For sure, Gabby. And it's funny, two things. One, first and foremost, all the time, client comes up with this beautiful Pinterest picture for their formal dining room. And you're like, yeah, that looks like someone remodeled their formal dining room and spent 80 to 50, 50 to 80K on that alone. And they took a picture of it and put it on the internet. We're in the middle of building your multi-million-dollar home and now you want to add another 80 to 100. I'm just letting you know we can do this. And usually that's where you throw costs back at them. Like I said from the beginning, where it's like, oh, no doubt we should put this in and it's going to cost a little bit more. And then there's just an exorbitant amount of like panels in a room and wallpaper or even leather panels and stuff like this. And you're like, so Pinterest is kind of a funny one. And I'll say this too. Here we go. It's the AI revolution, right? It's kind of handy. We're in the middle of a new build right now where the client sent me every single room with AI pictures, paint call outs, and everything. And I was like, I promise you this is helpful, right? What you have given me is helpful. because now you've given me what's in your brain. You've approved that you like this. You've given me what's in your brain, and now you're showing me a completed picture of what you think. Great, because that gets lost in translation throughout the build. Right. And I mean, that's what we're working on too. I mean, some nice firms, they have an in-house designer, and I've been speaking with one gal recently to possibly be our in-house designer, because that does help get a lot of those early questions out of the way. But now with AI, a lot of people can't send that. But before AI, and I would bring that up all the time, like, yeah, Pinterest just ruins people's budgets all the time, because then they come up with these ridiculous ideas. Where it's usually like I said, they've just remodeled one room and they put it on the internet, and then that wife or husband found that picture and they're like, "Hey, we want to do this now." And you're like, "Wait, okay,
That's awesome.
okay." And
That's so
that's
great.
also, by the way, why people hire designers. Again, that's usually the whole point of an interior designer, is to make some of their ideas into a reality, and that's the forever. Sometimes, designers get their feet. So sometimes a designer is kind of the builder's worst nightmare, because they're the ones that bump up the cost, and usually they've convinced said husband or wife of what should be going down, and then you're like, well,
Nice.
thanks. Now I have to deal with the cost side of it.
They're like, yeah, this is probably this
Yeah,
amount. It's
but
like
that light
40% less than it's
fixture
supposed to
just
be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Gosh, that's amazing.
hilarious.
That's great. So talking kind of as we wrap up here, Pat, on kind of the legacy side, obviously husband, you got 2 kids, and you're talking about building things that last for generations. So tell me what is legacy as defined by Pat Martelli mean? Is that all buildings? Is it the company? Is it something else? Like, what are we talking about when you're defining legacy from your perspective? What are you trying to refer to there?
Yeah, I mean, buildings, no doubt. I mean, that's what we do. Also, I mean, truly part of what makes this fun is like relationships with clients, with subcontractors. Um, right now, heck, even down to like my block mason, where I'm working with his grandson now, right? And his dad. I mean, yeah, literally my block mason. There's on my job site, there were 4 generations there. His dad was just packing mud, no joke. Dude's like 90, right? Literally packing mud to,
Wow.
and Ricky, he's laying the block, and then his son is cutting the block, and then his son's son is just kind of throwing the sand in the mud back, like, so, but and that's really cool, because we're at the age, I'm in my mid 30s, right? And I'm going to be able to have some of their kids still working for me by the time I'm close to retirement age. And that right there, I think, is just as important, because at the end of the day, we're all humans living on this earth. As like, we really enjoyed working with Pat Martelli at Boone Creek. He was not only a good guy, he built good stuff, and we were proud to work with and around his job sites. So I mean, again, back to
Yeah.
like my teaching. I like relationships a lot. I do. And you build them with clients. Heck, you even build them with interior designers and subcontractors. And it's just good to know. I mean, quite literally, like that, I'm quite literally handing you a check to feed 4 generations right there. You know,
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
that's something to be proud of from the legacy side.
Awesome.
And of course, yeah, beautiful buildings that you can look back on and be like, that's sweet. That was cool. Hard, but looks really cool, and that'll outlast me.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that being said, 100 years from now, someone's pulling apart something you built. What do you want them to find in there?
I leave a Boone Creek token inside every single house that we build.
No way.
No, are you what? Like, what is
Let's go.
No,
You serious?
I don't.
like?
Yes.
No,
What
I
is
don't.
this
He's
token?
like,
That's
he's
so
gonna start
rad.
doing it now, though.
So no, I don't know. If someone's pulling it apart in 100 years, I would want them just to be like, sweet, this was built right. Because back to the remodels, like your dad, Aram, it's like, I tell my clients all the time, I don't have X-ray vision. Like, we could make this cut right here. And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. This looks built right, I think. And then you open up the whole wall and you're like, whoa, who built this? I definitely don't want anyone to say who built this, unless if it's in a good sense, right? Like, damn, who
Yeah.
built this? You know?
I get you.
Awesome. So Pat and Boone Creek, where do we find more information about you? Let us, for our avid followers, what is your Instagram, Facebook, website? Tell us the deets on where to find you.
Yeah, BooneCreekConstruction.com. I have two businesses, about to start a third one. Because we have Boone Creek Construction and Boone Creek Millwork, and we're building a lot of and I do have an Instagram, but guys, I'm actively hiring someone to work my socials. I'm one of the worst with updating it. I'm literally, as a matter of fact, I even have older clients that are like, "We went to your Instagram and it's trash," and I'm like, "I know." I got
That's
clients that
awesome.
have no business being on Instagrams, commenting on my crappy Instagram. I'm like, "You guys need to be on Facebook. Get out of here." You know, like, go back to the Facebook world. But yeah, no, Boone Creek Construction on Instagram, Boone Creek Millwork. We're doing so for the millwork side, we build all of Buffalo Trace's like gift shop items like cigar holders, coasters, muddlers, 4-flight staves. We're doing for my winery clients, I'm building them like charcuterie boards with a 4-flight wine flight. And so yeah, we have a little shop that's just building like nice barrel items, and so that's been a pretty good little business right there. It's been a good form of passive income and cash flow because I don't have to really manage that much anymore. I really don't. And so we
Is
have a
that
contract with Buffalo.
is that a different website than Boone Creek Construction? Is that BooneCreekMillwork.com by chance?
Yes, yeah, I believe so. But
It is.
that is 7 months old, so that's still a baby. But we
Wow.
have a couple
That's
really good
awesome.
Congrats.
clients, and so we're just trying to continue to grow that one.
Good stuff.
Exciting.
Stuff,
That's
man.
good
I'll
stuff.
have to go order
Pat,
some
this
stuff.
has been fun, man. Yeah, we'll put all that in the show notes. Thanks for hopping on here.
Yeah, man,
This was
appreciate
Absolutely,
you.
guys.
good chat.
Absolutely. I hope this continues to grow. I do.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing, 5-10 years down the road. We're like, yeah, remember that first podcast appearance you made in the early stages and where the company is at that point. I think it'll be pretty sweet. So
Yeah.
it's
Me
good
too.
stuff coming down the pipeline for sure.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Well, Pat,
Thanks,
have a good
guys.
rest of your week. We'll catch
All
you
right.
soon, brother.